Billionaire missed his flight. Twin girls ran to him, crying, "Please help, Mom isn't waking up." Then he saw her face and was shocked. She was his lost lover from 7 years ago. "Hi, my beautiful family. Welcome back to Mr. Peter's Stories, your own family story channel. Heavenly God, I ask you to bless every woman with unshakable strength, endless courage, and a heart that spreads love and light wherever she goes. Protect them, honor them, and let their dignity shine brighter than the stars. They are the backbone of families, the silent heroes who carry the weight of the world with grace and love. Lord, I especially pray for Binta as she undergoes her nose surgery. Surround her with your healing light, grant her perfect recovery, ease her pain, and give her courage. May she feel your love guiding every moment, and may her health and happiness be restored completely. If your heart is true, like the video. If your love is real, write, "I am with Mr. Peter." Peter Rooney stood in JFK's private terminal, fury simmering beneath his controlled expression as his pilot delivered excuses about mechanical failures. The jet to Tokyo sat grounded, and with it, $40 million in deals he'd spent 18 months engineering. He'd built Rooney Global Technologies from nothing, turning a single software patent into an empire, and he didn't accept failure from machinery or people. "Find another aircraft. I don't care what it costs." Peter's voice carried the edge that made executives scramble. His assistant Jameson was already working his phone when the screaming started. 2 small girls ran toward him, faces streaked with tears, voices breaking with terror. "Please help! Our mom isn't waking up!" The first girl grabbed his sleeve with desperate strength while her sister sobbed, "She fell down and won't wake up and nobody's helping." Peter followed them through the concourse to the budget airline gates, where a woman lay crumpled on industrial carpet. The crowd gave her space but did nothing. The girls dropped to their knees beside her. And when Peter knelt to check her pulse, the moment he saw her face, his entire world stopped. Lauren Thomas, the woman who'd destroyed him 7 years ago when she vanished without explanation, leaving only a note saying she couldn't be what he needed. And she was here, unconscious, skeletal in a way that suggested chronic illness, wearing clothes from donation centers. But the real devastation came when he looked at the 2 girls crying over her body and saw his own eyes staring back. Green, distinctive, the exact shade that ran in his family. Their skin was bronze like Lauren's, their features a perfect blend, and they were 5 years old. The math was brutal and immediate. These were his daughters, and Lauren had stolen 7 years of their lives from him. "Sir, is she breathing?" The taller girl with careful braids looked at him with those impossible green eyes. "Please tell me she's breathing." Peter found his voice. "She's breathing. Her pulse is weak but steady." He looked at Jameson, who'd gone pale recognizing Lauren. "Call an ambulance, private service, Mount Sinai's emergency response." Security arrived as he learned the girls' names, Tasmin and Lily, and heard himself say, "I know her," before he could think about implications. When Tasmin asked if he knew their mum, Peter looked at Lauren's unconscious face and felt rage begin to surface beneath the shock. "Yes, I know your mum. I knew her a long time ago." The paramedics loaded Lauren onto a stretcher, and when they suggested the girls wait for family, Peter's voice carried absolute authority. "I'm family. These are my daughters, and that woman is their mother. We're all going to the hospital together." Jameson made a sound like he'd been punched, but Peter ignored him. He helped Tasmin and Lily into the ambulance and climbed in beside them as doors closed. Through the window he saw Jameson on his phone, probably calling the lawyers, probably calling everyone who needed to know that Peter Rooney's life had just detonated. The ambulance pulled away, sirens wailing, and Peter sat with 2 terrified little girls who were his daughters while their mother lay unconscious between them. Tasmin reached across and took his hand with heartbreaking trust, and Peter held on while planning exactly how he would destroy Lauren Thomas for what she'd stolen from him. The Tokyo merger didn't matter anymore. His empire could wait, because Peter Rooney had just discovered he was a father, and the woman who'd kept that truth from him was about to learn that some betrayals couldn't be forgiven. Chapter 2. The hospital reckoning Mount Sinai's private wing became a war zone dressed in medical efficiency. Peter watched through observation glass as doctors swarmed Lauren's unconscious body, while beside him, Tasmin and Lily pressed their faces to the window with desperate hope. He'd moved them to this consultation space that probably cost more per hour than most people earned in a day, because they needed to see their mother even if they couldn't be with her. "Is she going to wake up?" Lily asked for the 7th time. "She has to take us home." Home. Peter had already sent investigators to find out where that was. The preliminary reports came through in text bursts that made his jaw tighten. Basement apartment, Bronx, 3 jobs. "She's going to wake up. The doctors here are the best in the country." Another promise he had no right to make. "We can't afford best doctors." Tasmin's voice was matter-of-fact, adult in a way that made Peter's chest hurt. "Mom says we go to the clinic on Tremont Avenue because they don't ask for insurance cards." Peter looked down at this little girl with his eyes and her mother's careful pragmatism and felt something lethal settle in his bones. Lauren had raised their daughters in poverty so complete they knew about insurance cards and clinic versus hospital hierarchies. "You don't have to worry about money. I'm going to take care of everything." "Are you rich?" Lily's question held no judgment, just curiosity. "Mom says rich people don't ride the subway, and we always ride the subway. Yes, I'm rich. And from now on you don't have to worry about subways or clinics or anything else." Tasmin studied him with unnerving intensity. "Why would you take care of us? You said you knew our mum a long time ago, but people from a long time ago don't just show up and pay for hospitals." Smart. Observant. Peter made a decision. "Your mom and I were very close once. We loved each other, but she left, and I didn't know where she went. I didn't know about you. If I had known you existed, I would have been there from the beginning." "Why did Mom leave?" Lily asked. "I don't know why she left. She never told me, but I'm going to find out." Jameson appeared with news. "DNA testing facility is here. They can have preliminary results in 4 hours if you authorize the express processing. 4 hours until genetic confirmation of what his heart already knew." Peter nodded. "Do it. And get child psychologists on standby." "There's something else. The initial medical assessment came through. Lauren's vitals are critical but stabilized. The attending physician wants to speak with you about her condition. It's complicated." Within 20 minutes, a child specialist arrived, Dr. Nina Foster, who settled the girls with coloring books while Peter met with Lauren's medical team. The attending physician, Dr. Raymond Torres, pulled up charts showing more red flags than Peter could process. "Mr. Rooney, the woman in that room has been chronically ill for years. Her body shows signs of severe malnutrition, untreated medical conditions, and what appears to be long-term cancer treatment followed by relapse." Peter's world tilted. Cancer? Advanced. Multiple organs involved. Based on scarring and previous surgical markers, I'd estimate she had aggressive treatment 5 to 7 years ago, probably experimental given some unusual indicators. She achieved remission somehow, but the cancer returned. She's been managing it without proper medical care for at least 8 months. 7 years ago, right when she left. Peter's mind raced through implications. How long does she have? Without treatment? Weeks, possibly less. With aggressive intervention, we might buy her months, maybe a year if we're lucky. But Mr. Rooney, she's in no condition to make medical decisions, and we have no record of insurance or funds. Money isn't a concern. Do whatever it takes. Best oncologists, experimental treatments, I don't care about the cost. Keep her alive. Dr. Torres studied him. The girls are yours, aren't they? DNA results will confirm it, but yes, they're mine. She kept them from me for 5 years. I need to know why, and I can't get answers if she's dead. Peter returned to find Tasmin and Lily eating pizza, and the simple domesticity crystallized something in his chest. Whatever Lauren's reasons, nothing justified keeping these children from him. Nothing justified raising them in poverty when he could have given them everything. The DNA results arrived 3 hours later. Tasmin and Lily were his biological daughters with greater than 99% certainty. He'd known, but seeing it confirmed in scientific language made it real in a way that gutted him. 5 years of first words and first steps and milestones he'd never get back. 5 years Lauren had stolen. His attorney called within the hour. "I need full custody," Peter said without preamble. "Emergency guardianship initially, then permanent placement. I want it airtight." "Based on what you've told me, we have overwhelming evidence. Malnutrition, inadequate housing, medical neglect. We can file tomorrow." "Do it." And Rachel, "I want it done in a way that doesn't give her room to argue." When he returned to the consultation room, Tasmin looked up from her drawing, 3 people holding hands, carefully rendered in crayon. "Is our mum going to die?" The question deserved honesty. "She's very sick. The doctors are doing everything they can, but she's very, very sick. She's been sick for a long time." Tasmin's voice carried knowledge no 5-year-old should have. "Sometimes she cries at night when she thinks we're sleeping. Sometimes she can't get out of bed and we have to be really quiet." Lily nodded. "Mom doesn't eat a lot. She says she's not hungry, but I think she gives us her food because we're growing, and she's already grown." Peter knelt to their level. "Your mum is going to get the best medical care in the world, and you're going to be taken care of properly from now on. You're never going to have to share food or be hungry or worry about your mum being too sick to take care of you." "But you're a stranger." Tasmin's logic was heartbreaking. "Mum says we're not supposed to go with strangers." Peter pulled out his phone and showed them the DNA results, simplified. "These are test results that prove you're my daughters. I'm your father. I didn't know about you before today, but now that I do, everything changes." Tasmin and Lily stared at the screen, then at each other. Finally, Lily asked, "Are you going to take us away from Mom?" Peter thought about the legal papers Rachel was drafting, about the custody case that would bury Lauren under evidence of neglect. "Your mom needs to focus on getting better, and you need to be somewhere safe. We're going to figure this out together." It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the full truth. The full truth was that Peter planned to use every resource to ensure Lauren Thomas never hurt their daughters again. Dr. Torres appeared. "Mr. Rooney, Miss Thomas is regaining consciousness. She's asking for her daughters." Peter looked at the girls. "Give us 5 minutes, then bring them to see her. Supervised visit, medical staff present." He walked into Lauren's room alone. She was barely awake, eyes unfocused, IV lines running from both arms. When she saw him, her entire body went rigid with terror. "Peter!" His name came out barely a whisper. "No, you can't be here. The girls are my daughters." He stood at the foot of her bed, arms crossed. "Did you really think I wouldn't figure it out? They have my eyes, Lauren. They're 5 years old and the math is pretty fucking simple." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I can explain." "I don't want your explanations. I want to know why you thought you had the right to keep my children from me for 5 years. I want to know why they were sharing granola bars for breakfast and living in a basement when I could have given them everything." "I was dying." Lauren's voice broke. "I had terminal cancer. 6 months to live. I didn't want you to watch me waste away, didn't want to become your obligation. I found out I was pregnant after I left, and I thought I'd be gone before they were born. But you didn't die. You survived, and you still didn't tell me. You raised our daughters in poverty, let them suffer, kept them secret. Whatever your reasons, that's unforgivable." "I know." She was crying harder now. "I know what I did was wrong. But please, please don't take them away from me. They're all I have." Peter leaned forward, gripping the bed rail. "You should have thought about that before you decided I didn't deserve to know they existed. My lawyers are filing for custody. You'll be hearing from them soon." Lauren's face went white. "Peter, please, save it. You made your choices. Now you get to live with the consequences. The girls are coming to say hello. You have 5 minutes with them, supervised, then they're leaving with me." He walked out before her tears could soften the rage keeping him together. In the hallway, he found Tasmin and Lily waiting, and he knelt down. "Your mom is awake. You can see her for a few minutes, but then we need to let her rest." They ran into the room, their happy cries of "Mommy" echoing in the sterile space. Peter watched through the observation window as Lauren held their daughters, all three crying, and felt absolutely nothing except cold certainty that he would destroy the woman who'd betrayed him. His phone buzzed. "Emergency custody papers ready to file. Just need your approval." Peter typed back, "File them. Do whatever it takes." Chapter 3. The Life She Hid. Peter's Tribeca penthouse had never held children before. Tasmin and Lily moved through 12,000 square feet with wide eyes and careful steps, touching expensive surfaces like they might break, whispering to each other in voices too quiet for children who'd grown up with abundance. "Is this your house?" Lily pressed her face against floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Hudson. "You live here all by yourself?" "Yes." Peter gestured to Mrs. Chen, the residential coordinator he'd hired. "But Mrs. Chen is going to help make sure you're comfortable. She's going to set up rooms for you and get you anything you need." "Rooms? Like more than one?" Tasmin's disbelief was palpable. "We've only ever had one room. Mum sleeps on the couch so Lily and I can have the bed." Mrs. Chen took the girls to the guest wing, hastily converted into children's quarters. Professional decorators would arrive tomorrow, but for now 2 bedrooms with their own bathrooms would suffice. Peter listened to the girls' exclamations and felt rage intensify. Jameson appeared with investigation reports Peter had ordered. The file was comprehensive and absolutely damning. Lauren's basement apartment measured 400 square feet, barely enough for one person, criminal for a woman and 2 children. The building had code violations: black mold, failing heat, electrical fire hazards. Rent was $800 monthly. Lauren had been working 3 jobs: overnight cleaning crew at Manhattan office buildings, 10 at night until 6 in the morning, weekend warehouse shifts in Queens for minimum wage, weekday mornings at a laundromat, cash under the table because she'd maxed out what she could earn legally without triggering questions about fake IDs. She brought in roughly $1,800 monthly, and after rent had $1,000 to cover food, utilities, childcare, everything else. Childcare arrangements made Peter's blood boil. A neighbor named Mrs. Vasquez charged $400 monthly to watch Tasmin and Lily overnight and weekends. The investigator's notes indicated she was overwhelmed. The girls had spent early years with minimal supervision, learning to be quiet, to not be a burden. Bank statements told their story. Lauren had been sending $200 monthly to a clinic in Tijuana for years, then payments stopped 8 months ago. Peter cross-referenced with medical records his team obtained. Terminal cancer diagnosis 7 years ago, experimental treatment in Mexico that cost everything, then years managing the aftermath. He found the lockbox she'd hidden, photographed and catalogued. Inside were medical documents painting desperate circumstances. Diagnosis: stage 4, cancer, metastasized, 6 months to live. Treatment options: none approved in the United States, 1 experimental trial in Mexico with 10% success rate and devastating side effects. Lauren had sold everything, disappeared to Tijuana, and somehow survived. But survival had cost her. Reports detailed permanent organ damage, immune system failure, chronic pain requiring medication she couldn't afford. She'd come back alive but broken, carrying his children, and chose to struggle alone. Peter found her journal, scanned pages preserved by investigators. The first entry stopped his breath. "I'm dying, and I can't let Peter watch me waste away. I can't let him sacrifice his empire to save someone already lost. I'm pregnant, 8 weeks, and our babies deserve better than a dead mother and a broken father. If the treatment works, I'll have destroyed us for nothing. If it doesn't work, at least Peter can remember me whole. I'm choosing to love him by leaving. God help me, I hope he never forgives me for it." Entries continued across years. Joy when twins were born healthy. Agony when she couldn't afford pediatric care. Terror that Peter would discover them and take the girls. The crushing weight of poverty. The final entry, written 2 weeks before the airport. "The cancer's back. More aggressive this time, and I don't have money for treatment. I'm failing again, and this time I won't survive. I don't know how to save Tasmin and Lily. I've failed them the way I failed Peter, by thinking I could handle everything alone, by being too proud or too scared to ask for help. Maybe I should have told Peter from the beginning. Maybe my pride killed us all. Peter set the journal down and stared at city lights, his mind fracturing between fury and something more complicated. Lauren had been dying, genuinely, medically dying, when she left. She'd survived impossible odds, then lived in conditions suggesting she'd never stop paying for that survival. It didn't excuse what she'd done. Nothing excused keeping his children secret, but it complicated the narrative where Lauren was simply selfish, simply cruel, simply wrong. "Mr. Rooney," Mrs. Chen appeared. "The girls are asking when they can see their mother. They're getting anxious." Peter checked his watch. 9 evening. Far past when children this age should be awake. "Tell them they can call her on video chat. 10 minutes, supervised." He listened as Mrs. Chen set up the call, as his daughters' faces lit up seeing Lauren on screen. Their excited chatter about the big house, huge beds, nice bathroom carried down the hallway, while Peter focused on legal documents Rachel had sent. Emergency custody papers filed that afternoon, supported by evidence that would bury Lauren. Malnutrition documented by hospital records. Housing conditions verified by inspectors. Income levels proving inability to provide adequate care. Medical neglect. Lily's untreated asthma. Tasmin's developmental delays. The case was airtight. No judge would rule against a billionaire father seeking to protect children from an impoverished, terminally ill mother. The video call ended with girls saying, "I love you, Mommy," in voices that made Peter close his eyes. Mrs. Chen got them ready for bed, and Peter waited until they were settled before checking on them. He found both in Tasmin's room, curled together in a bed that could have held 4, whispering in darkness. "We can go back to Mom tomorrow, right?" Lily's voice carried hope that broke something in Peter. "This is nice, but Mom needs us. She can't be alone when she's sick." "Mom's in the hospital," Tasmin reminded her sister. "She needs doctors, not us. And this man, Peter, he says he's our father. I think he's telling the truth. We have his eyes." "But Mom never told us about a father. Why would she keep secrets?" "I don't know. Maybe she had reasons. Maybe she was protecting us. Or maybe she made mistakes. Mom makes mistakes sometimes." Peter stood in the hallway, listening to his daughters process their mother's choices with more grace than he could manage. They didn't hate her for poverty, didn't resent the struggles. They loved her with uncomplicated devotion. Next morning brought pediatricians, child psychologists, tests confirming what Peter knew. His daughters had suffered. Lily's asthma required medication. Tasmin showed anxiety and mild developmental delays. Both were underweight, undernourished, displaying chronic stress symptoms. The doctors were gentle, professional, and their reports would become custody ammunition. Peter's mother called that afternoon. "Jameson says the mother is that girl who left you years ago. Peter, tell me you're not letting sentiment cloud your judgment. This woman kept your children from you, raised them in poverty. That's unforgivable." "I know. I'm filing for full custody. My lawyers say it's guaranteed." "Good. You can't trust someone who walked away once. They'll do it again. Those girls need stability, proper care, everything she couldn't provide." Diane paused. "Are they really yours? Genetically confirmed?" "DNA verified. They're mine." "Then bring them to Connecticut this weekend. Your father will want to meet his granddaughters. And Peter, protect yourself. Whatever story she tells, remember that actions matter more than explanations. She chose to keep them from you. Nothing justifies that." The call ended, and Peter considered his mother's words. She was right. Actions mattered more than explanations. Lauren had choices at every stage, and every time she'd chosen silence. His phone rang. Dr. Torres with update. Mr. Rooney, Ms. Thomas is stable enough for long-term care facility. Her oncology team wants to start treatment immediately, but we need to discuss financial arrangements and her mental state. She's been asking for her daughters constantly, becoming agitated. Keep her stable. Start whatever treatment oncologists recommend. Bill everything to me. As for mental state, she needs to understand the girls are being properly cared for. She'll see them when it's appropriate. Mr. Rooney, I understand you're angry, but total separation while she's this sick could be psychologically damaging. The girls might benefit from supervised visits. The girls are benefiting from proper nutrition, medical care, and stable housing for the first time in their lives. When Ms. Thomas can demonstrate she's capable of putting their needs first, we'll discuss visitation. Peter ended the call and returned to watching decorators create space where his daughters could heal from damage Lauren's choices had inflicted. He was protecting them now. That's what mattered. That night, Tasmin asked when they could see their mother, and Peter explained Lauren needed rest, that visiting wouldn't be good for anyone. Tasmin accepted with quiet resignation, but Lily cried herself to sleep asking for her mommy, and Peter stood in the hallway listening to his daughter's heartbreak while telling himself he was doing the right thing. Investigation reports continued arriving. Lauren's co-workers remembered her as hard-working, never complained even when sick. The laundromat owner said she never missed shifts, showed up even when barely standing. Mrs. Vasquez told investigators Lauren was a devoted mother who did everything possible despite impossible circumstances. None of it changed the fundamental fact she'd kept his children from him. She'd let them suffer when he could have prevented it. Peter's brother Callum called offering congratulations and thinly veiled observations about how personal drama might affect company focus. His sister Imogen wanted to know if the children were legitimate, if DNA was certain, if Peter had considered social implications. Only his father Bennett remained silent, watching from Connecticut, waiting to meet granddaughters he'd never known existed. 2 weeks into the arrangement, Peter received formal response to his custody filing. Lauren had hired a public defender and was contesting his petition. The defense was predictable. She'd had cancer, made choices under extreme duress, always put children first given circumstances. Her attorney argued poverty wasn't neglect, that Peter's sudden involvement shouldn't erase 5 years of Lauren being primary caregiver. Rachel forwarded documents with a note. Weak defense. We'll destroy it. Trust the process. Peter did trust the process. He trusted judges would see evidence of malnutrition, inadequate housing, medical neglect. He trusted his resources and Lauren's poverty would speak louder than any explanation. What he didn't trust was the part of himself that read her journal entries late at night and wondered what he would have done in her position, facing death at 28, pregnant with twins, terrified of becoming someone's obligation. Those weren't the things that mattered, Peter told himself. What mattered was protecting his daughters now, giving them the life they deserved, ensuring Lauren could never hurt them again through misguided choices and stubborn independence. He stood in his penthouse late at night, watching city lights and planning legal strategy, while 2 floors away his daughters slept in beds that cost more than Lauren's monthly rent, dreaming of the mother he was systematically removing from their lives. Chapter 4. The custody battle begins. Lauren woke to silence for the first time in 5 years. No small voices, no Lily's breathing, no Tasmin's questions, just machines beeping and the hollow ache of absence. Peter had found her. Peter knew. Peter was taking them away. The door opened and he appeared, sharp suit, controlled expression, green eyes cold with fury. You're awake. We need to talk about the girls. Lauren struggled to sit up. Where are they? Please? They're fine, better than fine. They're being properly cared for the first time. Peter's words were surgical strikes. Living in my penthouse, eating real meals, sleeping in actual beds, getting everything you apparently couldn't provide. I did everything I could. I worked 3 jobs. You kept them in a basement with black mold, fed them so poorly they're malnourished. Lily has untreated asthma that could have killed her. Peter's voice rose. You had choices at every stage. When you got sick, you could have told me. When you survived, you could have reached out. Instead, you chose to struggle alone and let our daughters suffer. It wasn't pride. I was dying, Peter. Stage 4 cancer, 6 months to live. I watched my mother die. I knew what it looked like. I couldn't do that to you. You were building your company, and I was becoming a medical catastrophe. I loved you too much to make you watch me waste away. So you left without explanation, and when you survived, you still didn't tell me. You had our children and raised them in poverty for 5 years without giving me the chance to help. I couldn't come back. The treatment destroyed me. I had massive debt, permanent health problems. By the time I could think straight, the girls were born and I was buried under bills. You should have told me the truth. Let me make my own choices. You took away my right to be a father because you were too stubborn or scared to ask for help. Peter moved toward the door. My lawyers have filed for full custody. Based on the evidence, you don't have a chance of winning. Lauren felt her world collapse. Please don't take them from me. They're all I have. You should have thought about that before. The girls need stability, proper care, parents who put their needs first. You've proven you can't provide that. I put their needs first every single day. I worked myself to collapse keeping them fed. I gave them my food because they were growing and I was dying. Everything I did was for them. Everything except tell their father they existed. Peter's voice turned to ice. You'll get supervised visitation once you're medically cleared, but Lauren, I will never forgive you for what you stole from me. 7 years with my daughters, gone because you made choices alone. He left, the door closing like a prison cell. Lauren lay hooked to machines while Peter destroyed what little life she had left. Her public defender, Angela Reyes, harried and overwhelmed, visited that afternoon. I'm being honest, Ms. Thomas. Your circumstances explain your choices but don't excuse the outcomes. The girls suffered measurable harm. Mr. Rooney can provide everything they need. No judge will rule in your favor. So I just lose them? After 5 years? He's their biological father with unlimited resources. We can argue for visitation rights, maybe supervised contact a few times monthly, but full custody, you're fighting a battle you can't win. Lauren spent that night mourning daughters who weren't dead but might as well be. Peter would give them everything, education, healthcare, stability. They'd forget the struggles and become children of privilege. She'd become a cautionary tale. Meanwhile, Peter reviewed custody documents, trying to ignore his father's voice. Bennett had visited, met the girls, delivered observations Peter didn't want to hear. They're lovely girls, clearly loved, but they ask about their mother constantly. They're adjusting to luxury, but they haven't adjusted to losing her. She didn't lose them. I found them. You're punishing her for leaving by taking the only thing she has left. That's not about the girl's welfare. That's about your wounded pride. The accusation stung because it held truth. Yes, he was angry. Yes, he wanted Lauren to hurt. But he was also protecting his daughters from catastrophic choices. Both could be true. 2 weeks in, Tasmin and Lily's behavioral changes became impossible to ignore. Tasmin stopped speaking in full sentences. Lily's nightmares intensified until she refused to sleep alone. Both drew pictures obsessively, always 3 figures together, everyone smiling. Child psychologist Dr. Foster requested an urgent meeting. Mr. Rooney, Tasmin and Lily are experiencing traumatic separation anxiety. The complete separation you've enforced is causing psychological damage. They see her on video calls 3 times a week. Video calls aren't physical presence. These children spent 5 years with their mother as their entire world. You can't replace her with luxury and expect them to be fine. Dr. Foster pulled out drawings. Your daughter sees her mother abandoned and alone. She's 5 and carrying guilt she shouldn't have. What do you suggest? Supervised in-person visits. This all-or-nothing approach serves your anger, not their well-being. Peter authorized visits against every instinct. But watching Tasmin and Lily with Lauren, all 3 crying, holding each other, he had to leave before emotion surfaced. Jameson found him in the hallway. I know you're angry, but watching you do this to all of them is hard to witness. She made her choices. I'm making mine. You're making the same choice she made 7 years ago, deciding alone what's best, removing someone's agency. She was wrong to leave, but you're wrong to destroy the bond she has with them. Two wrongs don't make this right. His mother called with different perspective. That woman kept your children from you for 5 years. She doesn't deserve compassion. The girls need to see her. Their psychologist says separation is traumatizing them. They'll adjust. Children are resilient. Don't let Lauren manipulate you through the girl's emotions. Peter wrestled with perspectives, pulling him in opposite directions. What he saw, when honest, was a woman who'd faced impossible choices and made ones he disagreed with, but who'd also raised daughters who loved her despite poverty. But he also saw 5 years of milestones he'd missed. First steps, first words, birthdays gone forever. The custody hearing was scheduled for 6 weeks out. Victory was certain, his lawyers said. The girls continued supervised visits, growing more distressed each time they had to leave their mother. And Peter Rooney discovered that winning didn't feel like winning when his daughters cried themselves to sleep, asking when they could go home to their mommy. Chapter 5. The Daughters' Rebellion. The penthouse Peter had filled with every luxury felt like a beautiful prison to 2 small girls who'd never asked for any of it. Tasmin sat in the window seat overlooking the Hudson, her new tablet abandoned, drawing another picture of the basement apartment. Everyone said she should be happy to have escaped. Beside her, Lily coughed. The asthma medication was helping, but sometimes she coughed anyway because worry lived in her chest. Mommy's been in the hospital for 23 days. Tasmin kept count of everything important. That's almost a whole month without her tucking us in. Peter heard this from the hallway, where he'd been coming to tell them about the weekend trip to Connecticut to meet their grandfather. He stopped, listening to his daughter's private conversation with guilt that had been growing despite his determination to stay angry at Lauren. "Do you think she's getting better?" Lily asked. "Mrs. Chen says the doctors are helping, but Mommy looked really tired yesterday during video call." "I don't know. Adults lie when they think kids can't handle truth. Remember when Mommy said she wasn't hungry, but we found her eating crackers at midnight because she'd given us her dinner? I miss our old home." Lily's admission came out as whisper. "I know this place is nicer and we have our own beds and toys and stuff, but I miss hearing Mommy humming when she cooked. I miss how we used to all fit on the couch to watch shows on her phone." Peter's chest tightened because his daughters were describing poverty like it was comfort, remembering deprivation like it was warmth. They had everything now, every material need met, every opportunity available, but they wanted a basement apartment and a mother who worked 3 jobs. He entered the room, and both girls immediately fell silent, their expressions carefully neutral. They'd learned quickly to hide true feelings from adults who had power over their lives. It was another thing Lauren had taught them through necessity. "I heard you talking about your mom. You miss her." Tasmin nodded. "We're grateful for everything you've done. This is a really nice place, and Mrs. Chen is kind, and the doctors helped Lily breathe better. But Mommy is still our Mommy." The simple declaration held no judgment, just fact. These were his daughters genetically, but Lauren was their mother in every way that mattered to them. "I know she is. And you're going to keep seeing her. The doctors say she's getting stronger. The treatment is helping." "Can we see her more than video calls?" Lily asked hopefully. "Can we visit like we did that first time?" Peter had been avoiding this question. Allowing more contact gave Lauren opportunities to influence the girls, to complicate the custody case, but denying it was destroying his daughter's emotional well-being. "Yes. Starting this weekend, you can visit her twice a week, in person, supervised." The transformation in their faces, pure joy replacing careful neutrality, should have made him happy. Instead, it highlighted how miserable they'd been, despite everything he'd given them. Tasmin actually smiled, and Lily launched herself across the space to hug him with enthusiasm she'd never shown before. Thank you so much. We'll be really good, we promise. We won't ask for more. We'll eat all our vegetables and do whatever Mrs. Chen says, and you don't have to earn the right to see your mother." Peter stopped her desperate promises. "She loves you, and you love her. I'm not trying to take that away." Even as he said it, he knew it wasn't entirely true. He was trying to take custody away, which would fundamentally change their relationship with Lauren, regardless of visitation schedules. His mother's reaction to increased visitation was predictably negative. Diane called within hours. "You're making a mistake. Every visit strengthens their bond with her and weakens your position. They're 5 years old, Mother. They don't understand legal strategy. They just want their mom." "Then you need to be the parent who helps them understand reality. Lauren kept them in poverty and lied to you for years. Those aren't the actions of someone who should be celebrated. She also kept them alive through terminal cancer and circumstances that would have broken most people. That deserves something." "Oh, Peter, you're letting your old feelings for her cloud your judgment. Whatever you felt 7 years ago, she killed that when she left. Don't resurrect it now out of misplaced guilt." The call ended, but Diane's words lingered. Was he letting old feelings influence his decisions? He'd loved Lauren once, deeply, completely. When she left, that love had curdled into rage and hurt. But now, seeing her with their daughters, reading her journal entries, understanding what she'd survived, he couldn't sustain pure hatred. The weekend visit to his father's Connecticut estate brought Bennett into direct contact with his granddaughters. Peter watched the interaction with interest. Tasmin and Lily explored the grounds with appropriate wonder, but didn't run wild. They stayed close together, observing carefully, asking permission before touching anything. "They're remarkably well behaved," Bennett observed from the terrace. "Not what I'd expect from children raised without structure. Lauren taught them to be careful, to not be a burden, to survive in circumstances that required those skills." Peter heard bitterness in his own voice. They learned early that resources were limited and adults were unreliable. Except their mother. She seems to have been entirely reliable, based on how much they trust her. Bennett's observation was gentle but pointed. "Have you considered that she did an extraordinary job under impossible circumstances? That these girls are proof of her dedication rather than her failure?" "She kept them from me. Yes, she did, and that was wrong. But Peter, I've watched you build your empire. I know how you operate. If Lauren had told you she was dying 7 years ago, what would you have done?" "Everything possible to save her. Experimental treatments, best doctors, whatever it took." "Exactly. You would have made saving her your mission, poured resources into it, possibly sacrificed the company you were building. She knew that. She knew you'd destroy yourself trying to fix something unfixable." Bennett paused. "I'm not saying she made the right choice, but I understand why she made it. Understanding doesn't excuse it. No, it doesn't, but it might allow forgiveness, which is different from excusing. Those girls love their mother desperately. You have the power to destroy that bond completely. The question is whether destroying it serves them or serves your wounded pride." Peter wanted to argue this wasn't about pride, that he was protecting his daughters. But watching Tasmin gently guide Lily's hand to feed horses, seeing the care they showed each other, learned from a mother who'd cared for them despite having nothing, the argument felt hollow. The rebellion came 2 days later, unexpected and devastating. Peter arrived home from an emergency board meeting to find Mrs. Chen frantic, security scouring the building, and Jameson coordinating with the doorman. Tasmin and Lily were gone. The girls had waited until Mrs. Chen was preparing dinner, had slipped out wearing their new coats, and had made it 6 blocks toward the subway before building security spotted them through street cameras. They were found sitting on a bench at the station entrance, Tasmin counting change from the kitchen jar, trying to figure out if they had enough for subway fare to the hospital. Peter arrived at the security office to find his daughters with a guard who'd offered them hot chocolate, both crying but defiant. Tasmin looked up when he entered, her expression holding determination that reminded him uncomfortably of himself. "We want to see Mommy. Not video call, real visit. You said twice a week, but that's only 4 times a month, and Mommy needs us more than that." Tasmin's voice was steady despite tears. "We weren't trying to be bad. We just miss her." You can't run away like that. You're 5 years old. Do you understand how dangerous that was? Peter knelt in front of them, his heart still racing. We're careful. Mommy taught us how to ride the subway, how to watch for bad people, how to stay together. Lily's defense of Lauren's street-smart parenting made Peter's chest hurt. You could have been hurt. You could have been lost. You could have... Peter's voice broke because the terror of finding them gone had revealed something. He loved these girls with intensity that frightened him. We're sorry. Tasmin took Lily's hand, united. But we miss Mommy so much it hurts. Please, can we see her? Today? Right now? Peter looked at his daughters, frightened, defiant, heartbroken, and made a decision that would probably destroy his custody case. Yes, get in the car. We're going to the hospital. The drive to Mount Sinai was silent, except for Lily's sniffles and Tasmin's whispered reassurances. When they arrived at Lauren's floor, Peter hesitated outside her room. This unscheduled visit showed weakness his lawyers would hate. It suggested he couldn't control the girls, couldn't provide stable structure. But when he opened the door and saw Lauren's face, pure terror, when she registered something was wrong, he realized she'd been living with the same fear he'd just experienced. Fear that something had happened to the children. What's wrong? Lauren struggled to sit up, eyes wild. Are they okay? Please tell me they're okay. Mommy? Tasmin and Lily ran to her bed, climbing up carefully to avoid IV lines, and Lauren wrapped them in arms too thin to hold them properly, but strong enough to convey absolute love. Peter watched his daughters bury their faces in their mother's chest, watched Lauren cry while whispering that they were okay. Everything was okay. He watched 3 people who'd survived impossible circumstances together, who'd built a family in a basement apartment, who loved each other with devotion that luxury couldn't buy. They tried to take the subway here alone. Peter's voice came out rougher than intended. They were going to ride across the city because they missed you that badly. Lauren's face went white. No, Tasmin, Lily, you can't. That's too dangerous. You know you can't go on the subway alone. She pulled them tighter. I'm sorry. I'll tell them they have to listen to you, that they can't run away. They do understand. They understand that they miss their mother, and 2 video calls a week isn't enough. Peter moved to the chair beside the bed. They understand that no matter how much I give them materially, it doesn't replace what you gave them. Lauren's eyes met his, and something passed between them. I never wanted them to have to choose. I never wanted them to suffer. I thought if I stayed away, you could give them a better life. They don't want a life without you in it. That's what I'm learning. Peter looked at Tasmin and Lily, still clinging to Lauren. My lawyers tell me that allowing this much contact weakens my custody case, that I should be establishing boundaries and transitioning them away from dependence on you. Maybe you should. Lauren's voice was barely a whisper. Maybe they would be better off with you, with everything you can provide. Except they were willing to risk taking the subway alone across New York to see you. That's not dependence, that's love. And I don't know how to compete with that. They sat in silence, Tasmin and Lily slowly calming down, Lauren holding them while fighting exhaustion, and Peter processing what this meant. His daughters had voted with their feet, literally running toward Lauren despite everything he'd offered. Dr. Foster's words came back, this all-or-nothing approach serves your anger, not their well-being. Maybe she was right. Maybe destroying Lauren's relationship with the girls served his wounded pride rather than their needs. Maybe there was a solution that didn't require someone to lose completely. But before Peter could voice those thoughts, Lauren's monitors started alarming. She'd pushed herself too far, stress and emotion overwhelming her fragile system. Nurses rushed in, ushering Peter and the girls out while they stabilized her, and he found himself in the hallway with 2 terrified daughters asking if they'd hurt their mommy by coming to visit. You didn't hurt her. She's just very sick, and sometimes her body gets overwhelmed. But she was so happy to see you. Did you see her smile? She smiled so big. Lily's voice was muffled against his chest. She always smiles when she sees us, even when she's tired. That's because you're the most important people in her world. They waited until Dr. Torres appeared. Lauren was stable again, but the episodes were becoming more frequent. The cancer was progressing despite treatment. They were running out of time. Peter drove his daughters home through New York traffic, listening to them whisper to each other in the back seat, and acknowledged what he'd been avoiding. Winning custody might mean watching his daughters grieve their mother's death while hating him for keeping them apart in her final months. That night, Peter called Rachel. "I need you to suspend the custody petition. Temporarily. Don't withdraw it, but don't push for the hearing. Peter, we're positioned to win. Delaying gives her attorney time to build better defense. I know, but I need time to figure out what winning actually means. Because right now, winning looks like destroying my daughter's relationship with their mother." After the call, Peter sat in his study with Lauren's journal, rereading it late at night. One entry stood out. "Tasmin asked me today why other kids have daddies and she doesn't. I told her that her daddy is somewhere being amazing, doing important things, and someday maybe she'll meet him. She asked if he'd want to meet her. I said yes, because even though I kept Peter from knowing about them, I know he would have loved them. I stole that from all of them. I'm so sorry." Peter closed the journal and stared at city lights, wrestling with reality that everyone had made choices that hurt someone else. Lauren had chosen to leave, to hide the twins, to struggle alone. He was choosing to pursue custody in a way that traumatized his daughters. The girls were choosing their mother despite poverty because love mattered more than luxury. There were no easy answers. But watching Tasmin and Lily tonight, desperate enough to run away, brave enough to take the subway alone, Peter understood that maybe the right answer wasn't about who won or lost. Maybe it was about figuring out how everyone could survive this with the relationships that mattered intact. He just didn't know if that was possible when Lauren was dying, his family was pressuring him to be ruthless, and his daughters were caught between two parents they needed in different ways. Chapter 6. The Family War. Peter's extended family descended like vultures. His younger brother Callum arrived at the penthouse uninvited, watching Tasmin and Lily play with calculating eyes. "So these are the surprise additions to the Rooney family tree? DNA confirmed, I assume?" "DNA is absolute. They're mine." Peter's tone warned against further questioning. "And the mother, Lauren, she disappeared 7 years ago, left you heartbroken?" Callum settled into an armchair like he owned the place. "Interesting timing that she shows up now, when you're worth billions instead of millions." "She didn't show up. She collapsed at an airport. This isn't a shakedown. She's dying of cancer." "Cancer? How convenient." Callum's skepticism was deliberate. "Peter, I'm not saying she's lying, but you're distracted. The board's noticed. You've cancelled meetings, postponed the Tokyo merger. Meanwhile, the company needs leadership that's focused." There it was. Callum positioning himself while Peter dealt with personal drama. "The company is fine. A few weeks doesn't change 12 years of success. A few weeks becomes months. You're committed to this custody thing. Lawyers, court dates, emotional turmoil. The girls need years of stability. That's not compatible with running a global empire. If you need to step back to focus on family, I could take over operational leadership temporarily." "You're not taking over anything. Show yourself out." After Callum left, Jameson appeared. Imogen had given an interview to a society magazine, carefully worded sympathy about Peter's situation with alleged children and their unfortunate mother, sounding supportive while implying questions. "Your family is circling. Callum wants your position. Imogen wants social standing. Your mother is pushing you to cut Lauren off. Only your father hasn't weighed in. Because Dad understands family situations are complicated." Peter pulled up the interview. "Set up a family meeting. Connecticut this weekend. Everyone needs to understand where I stand." But before the meeting, Diane made her move. She arrived at the hospital unannounced and delivered a message Peter only learned about through surveillance footage he requested. Later, when he confronted Lauren, she was shaking. "Your mother offered me money. Enough to pay medical bills, set me up somewhere comfortable for whatever time I have left, and disappear from your life permanently." Peter's blood ran cold. "What did you say?" "I told her I'd never take money to abandon my daughters. She said I'd already abandoned them by keeping them from you, that this was just making it official, that you deserved better than a dying ex-girlfriend who'd proven she couldn't be trusted. She said the girls would thank me someday for getting out of the way. She had no right. She's protecting you. From her perspective, I'm the threat. She's not entirely wrong." "She is entirely wrong. The girls need you. Whatever else is happening, they need their mother." The family meeting at Connecticut became a war zone. Peter arrived with Tasmin and Lily. They needed to meet their grandfather properly. Bennett took to his granddaughters immediately, his weathered face softening as Tasmin showed him drawings and Lily asked if the horses had names. But when adults gathered for dinner, Diane launched her attack. "Peter, we need to discuss your judgment. This woman kept your children from you for 5 years, raised them in conditions that border on neglect, and now you're allowing her increased access. The girls need their mother. Their psychologist confirmed it. The girls need stability and proper parenting, which you provide. What they don't need is continued attachment to a woman who's dying and who made terrible decisions." Diane's voice was sharp. "You're letting sentiment cloud your judgment." "I'm letting my daughter's well-being guide my decisions." Imogen jumped in with false concern. "We're all worried. You've been through so much, finding out about the girls, dealing with Lauren's illness. It's understandable that you're emotionally compromised, but that's why you need family support to make clear-headed decisions." "I am making clear-headed decisions. I'm choosing what's best for my daughters, not what's easiest or cleanest. What's best is severing ties with a woman who abandoned them once and will abandon them again when she dies." Diane's bluntness was deliberate. "Lauren is terminal. She's going to leave those girls orphaned unless you step in completely. Every moment with her is another moment of attachment they'll grieve." Bennett, silent until now, spoke. "Or every moment is precious time they'll treasure. Diane, you're so focused on protecting Peter that you're forgetting those girls have already lost 5 years with their father. Don't make them lose their mother before they have to. I'm thinking of their long-term well-being. You're thinking of erasing a complication." Bennett's voice was firm. "Lauren made mistakes, serious ones, but she's still their mother. Peter's trying to navigate an impossible situation, and he doesn't need family pressure making it harder." The argument escalated, Callum suggesting Peter's divided focus made him unsuitable for company leadership, Imogen defending Diane while pretending neutrality, Bennett standing firm that Peter needed support rather than judgment. Peter left early, finding Tasmin and Lily asleep in a guest room curled together. He sat watching them and thinking about Diane's words. She wasn't entirely wrong. Lauren was dying, and the girls would grieve. But was the answer to cut them off now? His phone buzzed. The hospital. Lauren's condition had deteriorated. Another episode. Dr. Torres recommended Peter come in to discuss treatment options and realistic timelines. Peter drove back to the city, leaving the girls with Bennett, despite Diane's protests. When he arrived, Lauren was unconscious again, her body failing faster than treatments could help. Dr. Torres delivered news confirming everyone's fears. "We're losing ground. The cancer is spreading faster than we can treat it. We might have weeks, maybe a month. I'm sorry." Peter stood outside Lauren's room, watching her through glass, thinking about his daughters learning their mother was gone. Thought about the war his family was waging over custody and control, while the woman at the center was disappearing. When Lauren woke the next morning, Peter was sitting beside her bed. "The girls are safe. They're with my father in Connecticut. They don't know you're worse. Good. I don't want them to see me like this." Lauren's voice was barely above whisper. "Peter, when I'm gone, and we both know it's when, not if, please don't let your family erase me from their lives. Let them remember that I loved them. They'll remember. I'll make sure they remember." Peter took her hand without thinking, and she didn't pull away. "Lauren, I'm sorry for all of this, for being so angry I couldn't see past it, for making this harder than it had to be. You had every right to be angry. I kept your children from you, that's unforgivable. Maybe, but I'm learning that unforgivable doesn't mean I can't let it go, for the girl's sake and maybe for ours too." They sat in silence, hands clasped, while machines beeped and time ran out. Outside, Peter's phone buzzed with messages from Diane demanding updates, from Callum making another play for company control, from Imogen offering support with conditions. But inside the room, two people who'd loved each other 7 years ago were finally being honest about what mattered. Two little girls who needed both parents to put aside pride and anger and work together for whatever time remained. It wasn't forgiveness yet, but it was the first step towards something that might become forgiveness if they had enough time. The problem was, time had become the one resource Peter couldn't buy. Chapter 7. The Medical Conspiracy. Peter's investigators had been digging into Lauren's medical history for weeks, trying to understand the timeline of her disappearance and the choices she'd made. When the full report arrived, Peter read it standing in his office overlooking the city and felt rage find a new target. The clinic in Tijuana, where Lauren had received her experimental cancer treatment, Centro Médico Esperanza, had been shut down 3 years ago by Mexican authorities for fraud. They'd been running trials without proper protocols, charging desperate patients fortunes for treatments with catastrophic long-term effects, falsifying success rates, and disappearing evidence when patients died or suffered permanent damage. Lauren's survival had come at a cost Peter's doctors were only now discovering. The experimental drug combination that had put her cancer into remission had also destroyed her immune system, damaged her liver and kidneys, and left her with chronic complications that made standard cancer treatment nearly impossible now. She'd been slowly dying for years, managing symptoms with over-the-counter medication because she couldn't afford real health care, her body breaking down from the very treatment that had saved her life. The debt she'd accumulated, over $300,000, had gone to a fraudulent clinic that destroyed her body while taking everything she had. Records showed she'd sold her car, her apartment, everything of value. She'd borrowed from loan sharks, taken predatory loans, done whatever was necessary to pay for treatment that was ultimately a medical crime. Peter set his legal team on the clinic's former operators, now scattered across continents. Some were in prison. Others had changed names and were running similar schemes elsewhere. The money Lauren had paid was gone, spent on luxury lifestyles and bribes. There was no one to hold accountable, no way to get justice for what they'd done to her. But the revelation complicated Peter's custody case in ways his lawyers immediately flagged. Lauren hadn't just chosen poverty, she'd been medically bankrupted and physically ruined trying to survive. Her inability to provide adequate care for the girls wasn't neglect. It was the aftermath of being victimized by medical fraud. "This actually strengthens your case," Rachel explained over the phone. "It proves she can't provide stable care. She's terminally ill from fraudulent treatment, emotionally unstable from trauma, financially destroyed. No judge will rule in her favor." But Peter was learning that what made legal sense didn't always make human sense. Lauren had been dying, desperate, and she'd trusted criminals who promised hope. She'd survived their treatment only to spend years paying the price. She wasn't negligent. She was a victim. When he visited the hospital that evening, Lauren was awake, working with a physical therapist who was trying to help her regain enough strength to possibly go home. She saw Peter's expression and immediately tensed. "What's wrong?" "I know about the clinic, about what they did to you." Peter waited until the therapist left before continuing. "Lauren, you were scammed. The treatment that saved you has been killing you slowly for 7 years. The people who ran that clinic are criminals." Lauren's face went white. "I knew the treatment was risky. They told me up front. They told you it had a 10% success rate. They didn't tell you that survivors would have permanent organ damage. They didn't tell you they were falsifying data. They didn't tell you they were running an illegal operation that Mexican authorities would shut down for fraud. Peter pulled up the investigation report on his tablet. You paid them everything you had for treatment that destroyed your body. But it worked. I survived. Lauren's voice was barely audible. I got to meet my daughters, raise them for 5 years. Whatever the cost, it was worth it. Except the cost was them growing up in poverty while you slowly died from complications the clinic caused. Lauren, you were victimized. This isn't your fault. It is my fault. I chose that clinic. I chose experimental treatment over telling you the truth. I chose to disappear rather than face death with you beside me. Tears streamed down her face. I made every wrong choice possible, and my daughters paid for it. Peter sat beside her bed, and for the first time since finding her at the airport, he felt his anger crack. You made choices under impossible circumstances. You were dying, alone, terrified. The clinic took advantage of that. They saw a desperate woman and they used her. I still should have told you. After I survived, after the girls were born, I should have reached out. But I was so ashamed. I'd destroyed my body, buried myself in debt, and I couldn't imagine coming back to you like that. So I stayed away and tried to make it work alone. Lauren looked at him with devastation in her eyes. I kept choosing pride over honesty, and it cost everyone everything. They sat in heavy silence until Lauren spoke again, her voice different now, harder, more direct. Your mother visited me. She offered me money to disappear from your life permanently. Peter's jaw clenched. I know. I'm handling it. She said the girls would thank me someday for getting out of the way, that I'm complicating their lives and yours by staying in the picture. Lauren met his eyes. She's not wrong, Peter. I am dying. Every moment the girls spend with me is another moment of attachment they'll have to grieve. Maybe your mother is right. Maybe the kindest thing I can do is step back now. The girls ran away to see you. They took the subway alone across New York because they missed you that badly. You think stepping back is what they need? Peter's voice rose despite his effort to stay calm. I think maybe they need what's best for them long term, not what makes them happy right now. And long term, I'm not going to be here. You will be. Your family will be. Everything I can give them is temporary. Love isn't temporary. The love you've given them for 5 years doesn't disappear when you die. It becomes the foundation they build on. Peter stood, pacing to the window. My mother is wrong. My whole family is wrong. They see you as a complication to be managed, but you're not. You're their mother, and that matters. For how long? Lauren's question was brutal in its honesty. Dr. Torres told me I have weeks, maybe a month. How much more attachment should I create with my daughters before I leave them? How much more grief should I give them to carry? Peter turned back to face her. As much as the time you have allows, because the alternative, cutting them off now to spare them future pain, that's not mercy. That's abandonment disguised as protection, and I won't let you do to them what you did to me 7 years ago. The accusation landed hard, and Lauren flinched. I'm not trying to abandon them. Yes, you are. You're making decisions alone about what's best for everyone, removing their choice, removing my choice, because you think you know better. You did it when you left me. You're doing it now with the girls. And I'm telling you, we don't want you to protect us from loving you. We want the time we have left, however long that is. Lauren was crying in earnest now, her body shaking with sobs. I'm so tired of being strong alone. I'm tired of making impossible choices and living with consequences. I wanted to come back to you 1,000 times, but I didn't know how to stop being the woman who left. Peter moved back to her bedside and without thinking pulled her into an embrace. She was fragile in his arms, all bones and fear, but she held on like he was the only solid thing in a world that was dissolving. They stayed like that until her crying subsided, until machines stopped alarming, until nurses who'd been monitoring from outside decided the crisis had passed. When Lauren finally pulled back, her eyes were red but clearer. I don't know how to do this, how to be here, Be present when I know I'm leaving soon. You do it one day at a time. You show up for the girls when you can. You let me help instead of pushing me away. You stop trying to control everything and let us face this together." Peter took her hands in his. "Can you do that?" "I can try." Lauren's voice was small but genuine. "I'm sorry for everything, for leaving, for keeping the girl's secret, for being too proud to ask for help. I'm sorry." "I know. And Lauren—" Peter waited until she met his eyes. "I forgive you, not because what you did was okay, but because holding on to anger while you're dying serves no one. Our daughters need us to work together for whatever time you have left. So I'm choosing to let it go." The forgiveness hung between them, unexpected and profound. Lauren searched his face for signs he was lying, manipulating, but found only truth. Peter Rooney, the man she'd left 7 years ago, the man whose children she'd hidden, was offering her something she'd never thought possible: absolution. Why? The word came out as barely a whisper. "Because Tasmin draws pictures of you every day. Because Lily has nightmares where you disappear. Because I watched them run away to see you and realize they need you more than I need revenge. Because my father is right. You made mistakes, but you also survived impossible circumstances and raised 2 incredible girls. That deserves recognition, not punishment." Peter's phone buzzed with another message from Diane, probably demanding to know why he hadn't responded to her previous 15 messages. He silenced it without reading. "My family is waging war over this custody battle. My mother thinks you're a threat. My brother sees you as proof I'm distracted and unsuitable for company leadership. My sister is positioning herself as the voice of reason while implying you're manipulating me." Peter's laugh was bitter. "Everyone has an opinion about what I should do, how I should feel, what's best for the girls. Everyone except the girls themselves, who just want their mother." "And what do you want?" Lauren asked. Peter considered the question honestly. What did he want? He wanted his daughters happy. He wanted Lauren to not be dying. He wanted 7 years back that he'd lost. He wanted his family to stop treating this like a business problem to be solved. He wanted the woman he'd loved 7 years ago to somehow still exist beneath the illness and pain and broken choices. "I want the time we have left to matter. I want Tasmin and Lily to have memories of you that aren't shadowed by custody battles and family drama. I want to stop being angry at you for choices you made while dying. I want—" He stopped, surprised by his own honesty. "I want to remember why I loved you before everything fell apart." Lauren's expression softened into something that might have been hope. "I never stopped loving you, not one day in 7 years. That's why I stayed away. Because loving you and leaving you was the only way I knew to save you from what I was facing. You don't get to decide what saves me. That's my choice." But Peter said it gently, without the anger that would have fueled the same words weeks ago. "From now on, we make choices together. About the girls, about treatment, about how we spend whatever time you have. No more deciding alone. Deal?" "Deal." Lauren squeezed his hands, and for the first time since the airport, Peter saw a glimpse of the woman he'd fallen in love with, strong beneath the fragility, fighting even while dying, choosing hope despite impossible odds. Outside the hospital room, Peter's phone continued buzzing with messages from family demanding answers, from lawyers warning about custody complications, from board members questioning his focus. But inside the room, 2 people who'd broken each other's hearts 7 years ago were finally being honest, finally working together, finally choosing to face the impossible instead of running from it. It wasn't a happy ending. Lauren was still dying. The girls would still grieve. Peter's family would still wage war. But it was a beginning of honesty, of partnership, of whatever time remained being spent on what mattered instead of what hurt. And for the first time since finding Lauren collapsed at JFK, Peter Rooney felt something other than rage and betrayal. He felt possibility. Chapter 8. The Impossible Choice. The kiss happened 3 days later, unexpected and inevitable. Peter had been visiting Lauren daily, bringing the girls for time that gradually became less supervised as hospital staff saw their presence improved Lauren's vitals. They'd settled into uneasy partnership, co-parenting despite custody papers that remained unfiled. Lauren had been trying to sit up, frustrated with weakness, when she lost balance and Peter caught her. His hands on her arms, her face inches from his, both frozen in proximity that had once been natural. 7 years and a lifetime of pain between them, but their bodies remembered. "Thank you," Lauren whispered, not pulling away. Peter should have stepped back. Instead, he stayed close, one hand steadying her, the other moving to her face. "Lauren." She kissed him. Or he kissed her. Later, neither could say who moved first, only that suddenly they were kissing with desperate intensity, 7 years of grief and anger and love pouring into contact that felt like coming home and opening a wound simultaneously. They broke apart, breathing hard. Lauren touched her lips, eyes wide. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have." "Don't apologize. We both wanted that. Wanting it doesn't make it wise." "Peter, I'm dying. Starting something now, that's cruel." "So what? We pretend we don't feel anything? Maintain professional distance while co-parenting until you die?" Peter's frustration boiled over. "I don't know what that is anymore." Lauren was crying. "I don't know either. I want to be close to you, but I'm terrified of hurting you when I die. I want to build something with our daughters, but I know I'm leaving them." Peter's phone shattered the moment. Callum, calling for the 3rd time. Peter answered, patience exhausted. "What?" "Emergency board meeting tomorrow. Investors are concerned. I've been asked to present an alternative leadership structure." Callum's voice carried satisfaction. "You're staging a coup. I'm protecting the company from compromised leadership. You've been distracted for weeks. The Tokyo merger died. Stock price dropped. Someone has to step up. I'll be at the meeting. And Callum, if you think you're taking my company, you're deluded." Peter ended the call and found Lauren watching with concern. "Your family really is waging war." "My family sees weakness and is capitalizing." Peter ran hands through his hair. "The problem is they're not entirely wrong. I have been distracted. I've given Callum the opening he wanted. Then go fight for your company. We'll be fine." "Except you won't be. Dr. Torres called. Your scans show progression. The treatment isn't working." Peter's voice broke. "I'm facing a choice. Fight for my company or be here while you're dying." Lauren took his hand. "You fight. The girls need you strong after I'm gone. They need stability, need to know their father is successful. If you lose your company fighting for time with a dying woman, what does that teach them? It teaches them that people matter more than business." "I was trying to teach them survival. You need to teach them success." Lauren's voice was gentle. "We're both their parents, teaching different lessons. Don't let my dying take that from them." Tasmin and Lily burst in with Mrs. Chen, excited about art class. They showed Lauren their paintings, bright splashes suggesting happiness returning, and for a moment everything felt almost normal. That night, Peter faced reality. He couldn't fight on all fronts. Something had to give. He made calls until midnight. Rachel confirmed that custody litigation while kissing the opposing party undermined their case. His CFO confirmed board members were seriously considering Callum's proposal. Dr. Torres confirmed Lauren's episode suggested weeks might be optimistic. The board meeting was exactly the ambush expected. Callum presented his case with slides showing Peter's declining engagement, missed meetings documented, deals that fell through. "I'm not suggesting Peter has done anything wrong. I'm suggesting he's facing personal circumstances that require attention. His daughters need him. Their mother's illness requires involvement, but they're not compatible with running a company of this scale." It was a knife wrapped in concern. Peter watched executives nod along, saw investors question his commitment. When Callum finished, Peter stood. He didn't use slides. He told the truth. "My brother is right about some things. I have been distracted. I did let the Tokyo merger die. What he's not telling you is why. 5 weeks ago, I discovered I have 2 daughters I didn't know existed. Their mother is dying of cancer. When I found them, I had 2 choices: be the ruthless CEO who pursues custody while building his empire, or be the father who puts his children first, even when it costs business opportunities. The room was silent. I chose to be their father. I chose to allow their dying mother to remain in their lives because cutting her off would traumatize them more than business loss. I chose to spend time with 5-year-old girls learning their father's name while preparing to lose their mother. Yes, that cost me focus. It cost me the Tokyo merger, but it gave my daughters both parents working together for the first time. Peter's voice was steady. So if this board wants to remove me because I chose my children over quarterly earnings, vote for it. But understand what you're voting for. The board members shifted uncomfortably. Several had children. I'm not asking for permanent accommodation. I'm asking for time to help my daughters through their mother's death. Once that crisis passes, I will return to full engagement, but I won't apologize for being a present father. The vote happened an hour later. The board gave Peter 3 months of flexibility, with Callum handling day-to-day operations, but ultimate authority remaining with Peter. It wasn't the coup Callum wanted. He'd won, barely, and the victory felt hollow, because it came with a timer. When Peter returned to the hospital that evening, Lauren was unconscious again. Dr. Torres met him with an expression confirming every fear. She's deteriorating faster than expected. We're talking days now, possibly a week. I'm sorry. Peter stood looking through glass at the woman he'd loved and hated and was learning to love again. He'd just fought for 3 months, but Lauren didn't have 3 months. Inside the room, machines beeped warnings that a body was shutting down. Peter Rooney realized he'd run out of time to find answers. All he had left was whatever time remained to make sure his daughters knew their mother was loved, that her choices were understood. He walked into Lauren's room, sat beside her bed, and took her hand while she slept. Tomorrow, he'd bring the girls. Tomorrow, they'd make memories. But tonight, Peter just sat with the woman who'd destroyed and rebuilt his heart, and wished he had more time to figure out what love looked like when death was coming faster than any of them were ready for. Chapter 9. The Breaking Point. Peter's mother played her final, cruelest card without warning. The media explosion started at 6 in the morning. Tabloids, business news, social media running the same story. Tech billionaire's secret children, Rooney's hidden family scandal. Diane had leaked everything. Photos of Tasman and Lily. Lauren's background, carefully framed to suggest opportunism. The custody battle positioned as protective father versus unstable mother. Peter's declining performance linked to his distraction. By noon, photographers camped outside the penthouse, Lauren's hospital, the girls' school. Strangers shouted questions at Tasman and Lily as security rushed them from car to building. Diane had created a media circus designed to force Peter's hand. Either he'd crush Lauren publicly to save his reputation, or he'd be destroyed by association. She gambled wrong, but the damage was catastrophic anyway. Tasman stopped speaking completely. Lily's nightmares returned with intensity that had her waking screaming about cameras and strangers. They couldn't go outside without being photographed. Peter's legal team scrambled. Rachel filed for restraining orders, sued publications for harassment, drafted statements trying to control a narrative already spiraling. Meanwhile, his company's stock dropped 7 points in 3 days. Major investors called emergency meetings. Competitors circled. Callum gave a carefully worded interview expressing concern that made Peter look worse. The Tokyo partners withdrew completely. 3 other deals stalled. Industry analysts questioned whether Rooney Global could maintain its edge with compromised leadership, and Lauren lay in a hospital bed watching her daughters' faces on national news, watching strangers dissect her choices. When Peter visited that evening, she'd made a decision. I'm holding a press conference tomorrow. I'm going to tell the truth, all of it, then drop all custody claims and leave New York. The girls will be better off. Peter had expected this. Lauren, no. That's exactly what my mother wants. Your mother is protecting you. She's not entirely wrong. Look at what my presence has cost. Your company is bleeding value. Your daughters can't go to school without being traumatized. Your reputation is being destroyed, all because I showed up at that airport. You collapsed. You didn't show up. I found you. This isn't your fault. But it's my problem to solve. The solution is simple. I remove myself. You get custody without a fight. The girls get to keep you without the chaos. Everyone wins except me, and I'm dying anyway. Peter moved to her bedside, forcing her to look at him. Your opinion matters to Tasmin and Lily. It matters to me, and you're not solving anything by running away again. I'm not running away. I'm making the hard choice to get out of the way so my daughters can have a future not defined by my mistakes. Lauren's eyes filled with tears. Every moment I stay, I'm damaging them more. The media attention, the custody battle, that's all because of me. Without me, they're just your daughters. Nobody thinks that. Everyone thinks that. It's in every article, and it will follow them forever unless I give them a different narrative. Before Peter could argue, his phone rang. Jameson, voice tight. Turn on Channel 7. Your mother is giving an interview. Peter pulled up the live stream. Diane sat perfectly composed, delivering devastation wrapped in maternal concern. I understand why my son has been affected. Discovering he has children is overwhelming, but I'm worried about his judgment. This woman, Lauren, she kept his children in poverty for 5 years, never reached out, and now she's fighting for custody despite being terminally ill. As a mother myself, I question what kind of person does that. Diane's expression was perfect sympathy. Peter has a generous heart. I'm afraid Lauren is taking advantage, and the children are caught in the middle. The interviewer asked about media attention. I'm deeply sorry the children are exposed to this, but transparency is important. The public deserves to know, and hopefully Lauren will do the right thing and step aside. Peter ended the stream, hands shaking. She's destroying you publicly. Then I make it easy. Tomorrow I tell the truth, sign away my rights, and disappear. The story dies. You get to be the hero. Tasmin and Lily get to be your daughters without the baggage. It's not protecting them, it's abandoning them, Peter's voice rose. You're doing it again, making decisions alone, removing everyone's choice, running when things get hard. I'm dying. I'm not running from hard things. I'm dying from them. And I don't want my daughter's last memories to be cameras and strangers and articles questioning whether I'm a gold digger. They were both shouting now, years of pain erupting. Nurses appeared, but Peter waved them away. You want to know what they'll remember if you do this? They'll remember their mother gave up. They'll remember that when things got hard, you chose the easy way out. I left you to spare you from watching me die. I'm leaving them for the same reason. Why can't you understand that this is love? Because it's not love, it's fear. You're afraid of being vulnerable, afraid of needing people, so you run, and you call it protection. Then what do you want from me? You want me to stay, watch them grieve as I get worse, let your family destroy your reputation while I die slowly? Tell me. I want you to stop running. I want you to be here. Let us help you instead of making martyr choices. I want you to trust that maybe we can handle your death better if we face it together. I want you to stop being so fucking strong alone. The words echoed, and then Lauren's heart monitor went wild. She was gasping, clutching her chest. Emotional stress combined with her fragile condition was triggering a crisis. Nurses rushed in as Lauren lost consciousness. Dr. Torres appeared, grim-faced. Her body can't handle this stress. The cancer is throughout her system, and every episode accelerates deterioration. She doesn't have weeks anymore. Days, maybe. If you're going to bring her daughters to say goodbye, you need to do it soon. Peter stood in the hallway, hands pressed against the wall. He'd just yelled at a dying woman and possibly hastened her death. His mother's media campaign had created stress, literally killing Lauren faster. Jameson appeared. Lauren's press conference is scheduled for tomorrow morning. She arranged it before this episode. Peter, she's going to give up everything publicly. Peter returned to Lauren's room once she was stable, sitting beside her unconscious form while machines beeped warnings that time was running out. Tomorrow, Lauren would hold her press conference. She'd tell the world she was unfit, sign away her rights, and remove herself from their lives. The media would call it noble. His mother would call it victory, and Tasmin and Lily would call it abandonment. Peter had one night to figure out how to stop her, but sitting in that hospital room, watching machines keep Lauren alive while her body tried to quit, Peter Rooney didn't have an answer. All he had was grief that she was leaving again, fury that she kept choosing to run, and the terrible understanding that maybe she was right. The night passed in fragments, Lauren waking occasionally, disoriented. Nurses checking vitals showing continued decline. Dr. Torres making quiet preparations for end-of-life care. When dawn came, Lauren woke with unusual clarity. "The press conference is in 3 hours. I need you to bring Tasmin and Lily here first. I need to say goodbye properly before I do this." "Lauren." "Please, Peter, however angry you are, give me this. Let me tell our daughters that I love them, that I'm proud of them, that leaving them is the hardest thing I've ever done." Peter looked at the woman who'd destroyed him 7 years ago, who'd given him daughters he didn't know he had, who was dying while trying one more time to protect the people she loved by leaving them, and he made a choice. No. Chapter 10. The Earned Reunion. Lauren stared at Peter, certain she'd misheard. "No? No press conference, no signing away your rights, no disappearing." Peter's voice was absolute. "I'm done letting you make decisions alone. I spent 7 years respecting your choice to leave. I won't spend your last days letting you choose abandonment again. You can't stop me." "Yes, I can. I'm calling your public defender and cancelling it. I'm using every resource to prevent you from giving up." Peter pulled out his phone. "Rachel, withdraw the custody petition. Completely." Lauren's eyes went wide. "What are you doing?" "What I should have done from the beginning. Trusting that you love our daughters." He ended the call and made another to a journalist he knew. "I need you to run a story, today, exactly as I tell it." Over the next hour, Peter dictated a statement telling the truth. All of it. Lauren's cancer diagnosis 7 years ago, the fraudulent clinic, the experimental treatment, why she'd left, why she'd kept the twins secret, why she'd struggled in poverty. He didn't excuse her choices, but he contextualized them with compassion. He also detailed his own mistakes, the custody battle driven by anger, the initial refusal to allow contact, weaponizing his wealth. He admitted family pressure and wounded pride had nearly cost his daughters the chance to know their mother. The story went live at noon. The media narrative shifted within hours. Instead of unstable gold digger versus protective billionaire, it became a story about 2 people navigating impossible circumstances and finally finding a way forward. "Why did you do that?" Lauren whispered. "You just destroyed any chance of controlling this narrative." "I'm done trying to control narratives. I'm choosing truth over strategy, and I'm choosing you over my mother's manipulation." Peter sat beside her. "You've spent 7 years trying to protect me. I've spent 6 weeks trying to punish you. We've both been wrong. What do you want? Honesty, partnership, facing your death together instead of you running and me raging. You have days left, maybe a week. Don't spend them giving press conferences. Spend them with our daughters." Lauren was crying different tears now. "I don't deserve this. You survived the impossible. You raised 2 incredible daughters alone while dying. You made mistakes, but you also showed more strength than I can comprehend." Peter wiped her tears. "I forgive you, Lauren, for leaving, for keeping the girl's secret, for every choice that hurt us. I forgive you." "Why?" "Because Tasmin draws pictures of you smiling, because Lily tells anyone who'll listen that her mommy is a superhero, because I've watched our daughters love you despite poverty and illness, and they've taught me that love isn't about perfection." Peter pulled her close. "And I'm choosing to show up for you for whatever time we have left." They held each other while Lauren sobbed, years of carrying everything alone finally breaking. When she pulled back, her eyes were clearer. "I'm so tired of being strong alone." "Then stop. Let me help. Let me be here." Lauren nodded. "Okay, together." Peter made good on his promise. He called off the press conference, withdrew the custody petition, and told his mother she was no longer welcome until she could accept that Lauren was family. Then he brought Tasmin and Lily to the hospital, not for a visit, but to stay. He moved a cot into Lauren's room, brought their toys and books, created space where the four of them could be together. Dr. Torres pulled Peter aside that evening. There's an experimental immunotherapy trial, early stages, brutal side effects, 30% chance of remission, is not a cure. Even if it works, she'll need ongoing treatment, but it's a chance. What does Lauren need to do? She needs to want to fight. The treatment is hell. Months of being sicker, no guarantees. Patients who survive do it because they have something to fight for. Peter looked through glass at Lauren, reading to Tasmin and Lily, all three laughing. When he told her about the trial that night, Lauren's first instinct was predictable. I can't. The treatment will make me so sick. Or if it works, you'll have years. You'll see them grow up. Peter took her hands. I'm not asking you to fight for me. I'm asking you to let me fight beside you. Let me be there, Lauren. That's all I've wanted for 7 years. She searched his face, then nodded. Okay, I'll try the treatment. Not because I think it will work, but because I finally believe you won't leave me when it gets hard. The next 6 months were brutal. Lauren's treatment was exactly as promised. Devastating sickness, weight loss, days too exhausted to move. But Peter restructured his life around her care. He promoted executives to handle operations, worked from wherever Lauren was, proved he could lead effectively while being present. Tasmin and Lily saw their mother in truth, not dying gracefully but fighting ugly battles. They learned that love wasn't always pretty, that sometimes showing up meant holding a basin, that strength looked like getting out of bed when everything screamed to stay down. Peter moved Lauren to his Connecticut estate's medical wing. She had her own space, independence maintained, but close enough that the girls could visit whenever they wanted. 4 months into treatment, Lauren's scans showed something unexpected. The tumors were shrinking, partial remission, with cautious optimism that she might have years instead of months. Peter didn't celebrate with champagne. That night, he took Lauren to the terrace overlooking the grounds and asked quietly, "Will you marry me? Not because you're sick, not because of the girls, but because I love you and I want whatever time we have to be as your husband." Lauren said yes, through happy tears. They married 2 weeks later on the estate. Lauren was bald from chemo, 30 pounds lighter, wearing a simple dress because she was too weak for anything elaborate. Tasmin and Lily were flower girls. Bennett officiated. When Peter kissed his bride, she was scarred and sick and uncertain, and she was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. The vows they'd written together were honest. I promise to face uncertainty together. I promise to choose honesty over protection. I promise that whatever time we have, we spend it building instead of running. 2 years later. Lauren knelt in the estate gardens with Tasmin and Lily, teaching them to plant perennials. She was still thin, still battling fatigue, still taking medications, but she was alive, present, here. These flowers will come back every year, she explained as Tasmin carefully placed a bulb. Even after winter, they'll bloom again. Like you, Mommy, Lily said. The cancer tried to make you dead, but you bloomed again. Lauren caught Peter's eyes across the garden and smiled. It wasn't the carefree smile of their early relationship. It was better, earned through survival, deepened by shared pain. Yes, baby, some things survive the impossible. They just need the right conditions to bloom again. Peter joined them in the dirt. Their marriage wasn't a fairy tale. They fought about treatment decisions, about how much to push when Lauren was exhausted. They saw therapists working through 7 years of damage. But they were together, building a life that acknowledged uncertainty, raising daughters who understood that love meant showing up through hard things. "Daddy," Tasmin looked up, "will Mommy bloom every year?" It was the question they all lived with. Peter had learned to live with not knowing. "Your mum is going to be here as long as she can be, and we're going to make every moment count." He pulled them close, Lauren leaning against his shoulder. That evening, after the girls were asleep, Peter and Lauren sat on their terrace watching sunset. She was tired. She was always tired, but it was the good tired of having spent the day doing things that mattered. "Do you regret it?" Lauren asked. "Your company isn't what it was. Your family is estranged." Peter considered honestly. His company had survived but transformed. He'd lost relationships that might never heal. His reputation had taken hits. But he'd gained 2 daughters who were thriving. He'd gained a wife who understood him. He'd gained a life that had meaning beyond quarterly earnings. No regrets. Every choice that led me to that airport, I'd make them all again. Even the parts where I hurt you. Even those. Because they led us here. And here is exactly where I want to be. They sat in comfortable silence. The cancer lived in Lauren's body still. A tenant they couldn't evict, but had learned to live with. Nothing was certain except their commitment to face uncertainty together. Inside, Tasmin and Lily slept peacefully, the family that almost wasn't, that survived impossible odds and chose love over every easier option. Peter Rooney had built an empire, but his greatest achievement was learning that some things mattered more than power or wealth. His daughters taught him that love could survive poverty. His wife taught him that forgiveness could survive betrayal. Lauren fell asleep on his shoulder as stars emerged, and Peter held her gently, grateful for every moment beyond what seemed possible. They'd faced death and chosen life. They'd faced hatred and chosen forgiveness. Because some things did survive the impossible, they just needed the right conditions: honesty, patience, forgiveness, and the courage to bloom again even after winter tried its best to kill them. And in Peter Rooney's garden, surrounded by flowers that would return every spring and a family built on second chances, that's exactly what they'd created. A life that chose hope over certainty, love over pride, and together over alone. Always together.